I've always been kind of scared that a real connection doesn't actually exist. I mean, aren't we all just individuals floating on our individual islands with our individual perspectives? There's a phenomenon in physics that describes how two physical things can never actually physically touch each other. No matter how close they seem to get, the ionic fields of their respective atoms just bounce off each other, like trying to touch together two similar ends of magnets. And isn't it kind of the same for the non-physical? I could never truly know what you're thinking, and it's only through the lens of my own perspective that I could even theorize who you might really be in there. What does pretty look like to you? Or happy? How about blue? Green? Orange? What does your inner voice say about you? What does it say about me? Do you have a secret that you'll never share? One that you keep buried deep in the sands of your mind? How do you know it's safe there? Likely it's because you understand that your mind is inherently separate, an island untouched by foreign discovery, a place that surrounds you, a thick filter of distance that reshapes the world and its image as it comes to you. It may be that it's trivial. I mean, we register the atomic repulsion as a physical sensation and are vastly unaware of our energetic barriers as we've evolved to be able to differentiate a number of so-called sensations. But I want to touch you. Okay, that sounded weird, but you know what I mean. Real touch. None of this phony baloney atomic repulsion nonsense. An Irish poet and priest named John O'Donohue once said, "Real intimacy is a sacred experience. It does not expose its trust and belonging to the voyeuristic eye of a neon culture. Real intimacy is of the soul, and the soul is reserved." If intimacy is the environment of the soul, then surely standing on the holy ground of a kindred spirit's temple is an impossibility, even with offerings of love and admiration in hand, or I guess in mind. But maybe in searching for true intimacy, we can analyze the so-called cheap and voyeuristic versions of intimacy that we see in our neon culture, as John O'Donohue calls it. Moments of unmasking and submission, humility, desire, confidentiality, familiarity, and its parasocial cousin, affinity. Even meme culture is not exempt from expressing cravings for a deep and unbridled intimacy, like the releasing of all things self, the ability to feel someone's presence in your temple and be able to sit comfortably and find peace in that vulnerability. Not just an unmasking, but an unmasking in the presence of the unmasked. Not just submission, but submission with faith. Not just familiarity, familiarity of soul, with trust and belonging as key ingredients. I may be a cornball, a mushy bitch, if you will, but I desire intimacy. Real, true, sacred intimacy. It's possible that this plays a part in my tendency to be a bit of a recluse. I didn't make many connections growing up at all. I have a handful of people from my whole life that I can say I actually had a friendship with, and most of them were just like short-lived or surface level, and kind of just fueled my belief that nobody understands me. And I find myself in adulthood living out these themes of isolation and disunion in my social and romantic lives, subconsciously distancing myself from people in my orbit for fear of judgment or abandonment, like some kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. And also finding myself begging to be seen, heard, and understood in my romantic relationships, to the point where I just end up in a very monkey-brained attempt at being proactive, pointing out all the ways in which we don't connect, shifting my partner's perception of us until, once again, as told in the prophecy, I end up alone. It kind of makes you think though, because I keep asking so strongly to the universe to experience a moment of divine and sacred intimacy, and the Lord God in all of her melanated glory keeps leading me into empty rooms. Rupi Kaur said, "How you love yourself is how you teach others to love you." Maybe by refusing to sit in my own presence, refusing to see myself while ironically searching for my reflection in others, misinterpreting my inner self's directions, I'm unintentionally communicating to others that to love me is to be always wanting something more when in my presence. Unable to sit still, unable to find peace in the space that I create. One major aspect of intimacy is a form of release. The way atoms would have to release their subatomic pressures that's locking the electrons into their orbits in order for the nucleus to interact, or the way you would have to release fear in order to submit to faith. And that feeling of faith brings with it a peace as a result that is vital to any intimate experience. It's a peace that can only be cultivated on holy ground. It needs to be tended by a steady and consistent mind that is committed to love. And I mean, from there, no one would be able to sit in your presence without it being an extremely peaceful and unveiling experience. And then intimacy will be all around you. I guess throughout all of this, there has been kind of a character development arc. It's clear to me now that real intimacy, sacred intimacy, is a feeling of peace and vulnerability that one cultivates within themselves. Full stop.